The world is entering a new period of instability. War, energy tensions, and disrupted shipping routes are pushing global transportation costs higher. In today's video, we will look at 30 food items that many people are choosing to stockpile before their prices may rise sharply in the near future. If oil prices increase by about 20% in the coming months, the cost of transporting and producing food could rise as well, causing food prices in supermarkets across the United States to climb faster than many people expect. What is notable is that the first items to increase in price are usually not luxury products. Instead, they are often very familiar foods in many kitchens: rice, beans, cooking oil, canned meat, even just a bag of flour. Therefore, let's begin with item number 30. 30. Canned beef may seem like just a simple can of food sitting quietly on a supermarket shelf. But behind every can of beef is a massive cattle industry facing increasing pressure. Raising a cow requires not only land and water, but also depends heavily on livestock feeds such as corn and soybeans. When grain prices rise, the cost of raising cattle rises as well. In recent years, many major ranching regions have also faced prolonged droughts, leaving pastures dry and water supplies scarce. When costs rise too high, many farms are forced to reduce their cattle herds. When cattle numbers decline, the supply of beef in the market also falls. And when supply drops while demand remains high, beef prices usually rise very quickly. That is why canned beef is not only a convenient food, but also a stable source of protein that many families are starting to stockpile before prices continue to increase. 29. Coffee may not be an essential food in a meal, but for many people it is a familiar part of their daily routine. A cup of coffee in the morning can help the body feel more alert and start the day with more energy. During stressful moments or when working for long periods of time, coffee often brings a sense of focus and mental stability. In addition, coffee can also be stored for quite a long time if it is kept sealed and protected from moisture. Therefore, in many kitchens, coffee is not just a beverage but also a small factor that helps maintain routine and a stable mindset during busy days. Just a small amount of coffee can create a noticeable difference in the rhythm of daily life. 28. Canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes are the foundation of many familiar dishes in the kitchen. With just one can of tomatoes, you can begin many different meals such as pasta sauce, soup, or rich stews. Tomatoes help create mild acidity, color, and flavor for a dish, so they are often considered a basic ingredient in many cooking recipes. When tomatoes are cooked and canned, they still retain most of their flavor and can be stored for a long time. This makes canned tomatoes a convenient option when fresh tomatoes are not available or when prices change with the seasons. Thanks to their flexibility in cooking and their ability to combine with many other ingredients such as meat, beans, or vegetables, a simple can of tomatoes can become the starting point for many different meals in the kitchen. 27. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is one of the most familiar foods in many kitchens. With just a small spoonful, you can already add a considerable amount of calories and protein. What is interesting is that peanut butter is popular not only because of its flavor, but also because of its convenience. It requires no cooking, no complicated preparation, and can be combined with bread, fruit, or oats. However, the price of peanut butter depends heavily on the peanut harvest season. When major peanut growing regions face drought or unusual weather, production can decline significantly. When the supply of raw materials decreases while demand remains stable, production costs also increase. Therefore, many families often buy a few jars of peanut butter to use gradually because it can be stored for quite a long time and is very easy to use in many quick meals. But the items mentioned earlier are only the very familiar part of the supermarket. In the next section, there are a few simple ingredients that many families always keep in their kitchens. 26. Breakfast cereal. Breakfast cereal is a very familiar item in supermarkets. Many families buy it every week because it is fast, convenient, and easy to prepare for breakfast. But few people realize that a small box of cereal depends on many important agricultural ingredients. Most breakfast cereals are produced from three main ingredients: corn, wheat, and oats. When the prices of these crops rise, the cost of producing cereal also increases. In recent years, many major grain-growing regions around the world have faced drought, high fertilizer costs, and rising fuel prices. When the costs of planting, harvesting, and transportation all increase, the price of a box of cereal on supermarket shelves can rise much faster than many people expect. Therefore, many families begin to buy and store it while prices are still stable. 25. Canned tuna. Canned tuna is one of the most convenient sources of protein in the supermarket. Just by opening a can, you can add it to salad, sandwiches, or pasta in a few minutes. But few people realize that behind every can of tuna is a fishing industry that depends heavily on fuel. Fishing vessels often have to travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers across the ocean to find schools of fish. When oil prices rise, the cost of each fishing trip also increases very quickly. In addition, many major fishing areas around the world are applying catch quotas to protect natural fish stocks, which means production cannot increase quickly when demand rises. When fuel costs are higher while production is limited, the price of tuna on supermarket shelves often tends to rise quite quickly. Therefore, many families begin to keep a few cans of tuna in their kitchens because it is both convenient and can be stored for a long time. Interestingly, when food prices begin to rise, many people often return to the most basic ingredients to cook daily meals. 24. White rice. White rice is one of the most basic foods in the world and has fed billions of people for many generations. With just water and a simple pot, rice can become the foundation for many different meals. Thanks to its relatively low cost and simple cooking method, rice often appears in many kitchens as a stable source of energy. In addition, white rice can also be combined with many other ingredients such as vegetables, beans, meat, or fish to create more complete meals. Another important point is that rice can be stored for a very long time if it is kept dry and protected from moisture. This long storage ability makes rice one of the most reliable foods in many households, especially when a food source that is easy to cook and easy to combine with other ingredients is needed. If stored properly in sealed containers or oxygen absorber bags, white rice can last 20 to 30 years and still remain usable. 23. Oats. Oats are one of the grains that are highly valued for their nutritional value. They provide slow, absorbing carbohydrates, helping the body maintain stable energy for a long period of time. In addition, oats also contain a lot of fiber, which helps support digestion and creates a feeling of fullness for longer after a meal. Therefore, oats are often considered an ideal option for a simple but nutritious breakfast. With just hot water or milk, you can prepare a quick meal that still provides enough energy for the morning. Thanks to their relatively long storage ability and simple preparation, oats become a convenient ingredient in many kitchens, especially for people who want to prepare quick meals while still ensuring nutritional value. 22. Canned vegetables. Canned vegetables offer a very clear advantage: stability. While fresh vegetables depend heavily on seasons and supply chains, canned vegetables can be stored for a long time while still retaining most of their nutritional value. Thanks to the processing and sealing process in cans, vegetables can be stored for many months or even many years. This makes canned vegetables a useful option when fresh vegetables become scarce or difficult to preserve. Vegetables such as canned beans, corn, or carrots can quickly add fiber and vitamins to daily meals. Just open the can and heat it lightly, and you immediately have a portion of vegetables ready for the meal. This convenience and stability are what make canned vegetables a familiar part of many kitchens. 21. Ramen noodles. Ramen noodles are often seen as one of the cheapest foods in the supermarket. But during many difficult economic periods, ramen becomes a very common source of calories. It is cheap, easy to cook, and can be combined with many other foods such as eggs, vegetables, or meat. Few people notice that ramen depends heavily on two main ingredients: wheat and vegetable oil. When wheat prices rise due to drought, fertilizer costs, or reduced crop yields, the cost of producing noodles also increases quite quickly. In addition, the vegetable oil used to fry the dried noodles is also affected by the price of oil seeds and energy costs at processing factories. When both raw materials and production costs increase, the price of ramen noodles on supermarket shelves often rises faster than many people expect. Therefore, even though it is a simple food, many families still begin to stockpile ramen while prices are still stable. Speaking of simple foods like ramen, I am also quite curious about one thing. In your kitchen, what foods do you usually keep on hand so you can cook quickly for a few days? Ramen beans or rice? Please let me know in the comments section. 20. Canned beans. Canned beans are one of the most common plant-based sources of protein in the supermarket. Many families use beans for soup, salad, or simple stews because they are convenient and easy to prepare. However, the price of canned beans depends on many different factors. First is the agricultural production of beans, such as black beans, kidney beans, or white beans. When drought or extreme weather occurs in major bean-growing regions, production can decline significantly. In addition, the process of turning beans into canned food also requires energy, metal packaging, and transportation systems. When both production costs and raw materials increase, the price of canned beans on supermarket shelves usually rises as well. Therefore, thanks to their long storage life and flexible use in many dishes, many families begin to stockpile canned beans while prices are still stable. 19. Dried beans. Dried beans have long been considered one of the cheapest and most sustainable sources of protein in the supermarket. With just a small bag, you can cook many different meals such as soup, stew, or eat them with rice. What is interesting is that when the economy becomes difficult and meat prices rise, many families often return to simple foods like beans. Historically, demand for dried beans often increases significantly during periods of food inflation because they provide protein at a much lower cost than meat. 1 pound of dried beans can be cooked into many servings and can last a long time if kept dry. That is why when food prices begin to fluctuate, dried beans are often one of the first items many people add to their stockpile shopping list. 18. Canned sardines. Canned sardines are small in size, but their nutritional value is very notable. A can of sardines can provide protein, omega-3, and calcium, important nutrients for the body. Therefore, in many kitchens, sardines are often considered a simple but very useful food source. However, the price of sardines depends heavily on fishing conditions in the ocean. When ocean temperatures change or the fishing season is unfavorable, sardine production can decline significantly. In addition, the fishing industry is also heavily affected by fuel costs and the operating costs of fishing vessels. When production declines while harvesting costs increase, the price of sardines in the market usually rises quite quickly. Therefore, thanks to their high nutritional value and long storage life, Canned sardines are often one of the foods that many families choose to stockpile while prices are still stable. Among the items mentioned earlier, how many do you already have in your kitchen? 5 items or more. 17. Canned salmon compared to tuna. Canned salmon usually costs more, but many people still choose salmon because it provides protein and many omega-3 fats that are beneficial for health. A can of salmon can be used for many simple meals such as salad, pasta, or fish cakes. However, the price of salmon depends heavily on supply from the aquaculture and fishing industries. In recent years, many salmon farms have faced increasingly high costs for fish feed, energy, and operations. In addition, environmental regulations and disease in aquaculture can also reduce production during certain periods. When the cost of raising and processing fish increases, the price of salmon in the market usually rises quite quickly. Therefore, thanks to its high nutritional value and long storage life, canned salmon is often purchased by many families to stockpile while prices are still stable. 16. Canned chicken. Chicken is one of the most consumed sources of protein in the United States. On average, each year, an American may eat more than 90 pounds of chicken in many different forms. But behind that large consumption number is a livestock industry that depends heavily on animal feed. Most chickens are raised on corn and soybeans. When the prices of these two crops rise due to drought or high fertilizer costs, the cost of raising chickens also increases. In addition, the poultry industry sometimes has to face diseases such as avian influenza, which forces many farms to reduce their flocks to control risk. When supply decreases while demand remains high, the price of chicken in the market usually rises faster than many people expect. Thanks to its long storage ability and flexible use in many meals, canned chicken becomes a fairly common stockpile option in many households. 15. Cooking oil. Cooking oil is one of the items that can experience the fastest price fluctuations in the supermarket. Most common oils such as soybean oil, sunflower oil, or palm oil depend directly on the production of oilseed crops. When harvest seasons face drought, extreme weather, or high fertilizer costs, agricultural output can decline significantly. When the supply of raw materials decreases, oil processing factories have to pay more to purchase crops. In addition, the processes of pressing oil, refining, and transportation also require a large amount of energy. When both production costs and raw materials increase, cooking oil prices on supermarket shelves usually rise quite quickly. Because cooking oil is a basic ingredient in most daily meals, from frying, sautéing, to cooking, many families often buy and store a few bottles while prices are still stable. We have reached the halfway point of the list. In your opinion, which item in the remaining part is the most important in the kitchen? 14. Butter. Butter is a familiar ingredient in many kitchens, especially in baking and pastry recipes. However, the price of butter depends heavily on the dairy production industry. To produce butter, factories must separate fat from milk or cream, so the supply of raw milk plays a very important role. When the cost of raising dairy cows increases, milk prices usually rise as well, and that causes butter prices to increase quite quickly. In recent years, many dairy farms have faced high livestock feed costs, rising energy prices, and extreme weather affecting the feed supply for cattle. When the cost of raising cows increases and milk production declines, butter prices in the market usually rise quite quickly. 13. Olive oil. In the past few years, olive oil has become one of the food products with the fastest rising prices in many countries. One of the main reasons comes from extreme weather in major olive-growing regions such as Spain, Italy, and Greece. Spain alone produces nearly 40% of the world's olive oil. So when harvest seasons in this region are affected by drought or high temperatures, global supply can decline significantly. Olive trees need many years to develop and produce stable yields, so farmers cannot increase production immediately when demand rises. When supply declines while demand remains stable, olive oil prices in the market usually rise very quickly. Therefore, many families begin to buy a few extra bottles while prices are still at an acceptable level. 12. Ghee is a form of clarified butter in which water and milk solids are removed to retain pure fat. Thanks to this process, ghee can be stored longer than regular butter and can withstand high cooking temperatures, so it is often used for frying or sautéing. However, ghee still depends heavily on the milk supply from the dairy farming industry. To produce ghee, manufacturers must use a fairly large amount of butter, and butter is made from cream. When the cost of raising dairy cows increases due to livestock feed prices, energy costs, or weather conditions affecting grass supply, raw milk prices usually rise as well. When milk prices rise, the cost of producing butter and ghee also increases. Therefore, thanks to its long storage ability and high nutritional value, many families begin to stockpile ghee while prices are still at a reasonable level. 11. Powdered milk. Powdered milk has long been considered a convenient solution when fresh milk is unstable or difficult to store. By simply adding water, you can use milk for many different purposes, such as drinking directly, cooking, or baking. Thanks to the drying process, powdered milk can last for a very long time if it is stored properly. However, the price of powdered milk depends heavily on the dairy farming industry and food processing costs. When the costs of cattle feed, energy, and transportation increase, raw milk prices usually rise as well. In addition, the process of producing powdered milk also requires a large amount of energy to remove water from fresh milk. When both raw material and production costs increase, powdered milk prices in the market usually rise quite quickly. Therefore, thanks to its long storage life and convenience, many families often stockpile powdered milk while prices are still stable. 10. Cheese is one of the most common dairy products in many kitchens, from sandwiches and pasta to pizza. But few people notice that to produce cheese, manufacturers need a very large amount of milk. To produce a small amount of cheese, many liters of fresh milk are usually required, so the price of cheese depends directly on the supply of raw milk. When the cost of raising dairy cows increases due to livestock feed prices, energy costs, or weather conditions affecting pastures, milk prices usually rise as well. When milk prices rise, the cost of producing cheese also increases quite quickly. In addition, many types of cheese require a long aging process to reach the desired flavor, which increases storage and production costs. Therefore, when milk supply decreases while demand remains high, cheese prices in the market usually rise quite quickly. If you could only choose 3 items to always keep in your home, which ones would you choose? Try to think about it before we move to the next part. 9. Honey is one of the few foods that can be stored for a very long time if it is kept sealed properly. Thanks to its high natural sugar content and low moisture, honey has the ability to preserve itself without the need for artificial preservatives. In many kitchens, honey is not only used to add sweetness to tea or baked goods, but also serves as a versatile ingredient in cooking. However, the price of honey depends heavily on the health of bee populations and the natural environment. When the number of bees declines due to disease, pesticides, or loss of habitat, the amount of honey harvested each year also decreases. When production declines while demand remains stable, honey prices in the market usually rise quite quickly. 8. Sugar is one of the basic ingredients that appears in many foods and beverages. From baking and making tea to preparing different sauces, sugar plays an important role in many cooking recipes. But behind those small sugar crystals is a large agricultural industry that depends on sugarcane and sugar beets. These two crops are strongly affected by weather and climate conditions. When drought, heavy rain, or unusual temperatures occur in major sugarcane growing regions, harvest output can decline significantly. In addition, the process of producing sugar also requires a large amount of energy to press sugarcane juice, refine it, and dry it into crystals. When production costs increase while agricultural output declines, sugar prices in the market usually tend to rise. Because sugar can be stored for a very long time and is easy to use in many different foods, many families often keep a supply of sugar in the kitchen to use gradually over time. 7. Salt. Salt may be the simplest ingredient in the kitchen, but its role is very special. It is not only used for seasoning, but salt is also one of the oldest food preservation methods used by humans. Before refrigerators existed, many types of meat and fish were salted to extend their storage time. Salt works by drawing water out of food and creating an environment that makes it difficult for bacteria to grow. Thanks to this property, salt becomes an important component in many traditional preservation methods, such as salting fish, making pickled vegetables, or curing meat. What is notable is that salt has almost no expiration date if it is kept dry. Therefore, in many kitchens, salt is not only a seasoning, but also an ingredient that helps extend the shelf life of food and maintain a food supply for a longer time. 6. White vinegar. White vinegar is a very versatile ingredient in the kitchen. In cooking, vinegar helps balance the flavor of dishes by adding mild acidity, highlighting other ingredients in soup, sauces, or dipping sauces. But the role of vinegar does not stop there. Thanks to its natural acidity, vinegar is also used in many food preservation methods, such as making pickles or soaking vegetables. The acid in vinegar helps limit the growth of bacteria and extend the shelf life of food. Besides cooking, many families also use vinegar to clean kitchen surfaces, remove odors, or eliminate mineral buildup on kitchen tools. Because it can serve many different purposes, a small bottle of white vinegar often becomes one of the most useful and flexible ingredients in the kitchen. Among these last 5 items, is there any item you always keep in your kitchen? Let's see if your guess is correct. 5. Canned pineapple. Canned pineapple brings a sweet and slightly sour flavor that helps enrich many different dishes. Unlike many fresh fruits that spoil easily, pineapple when canned can be stored for a long time while still retaining its distinctive flavor. Besides adding taste to meals, pineapple also provides vitamin C and several minerals needed by the body. Canned pineapple can be used in many ways, such as desserts, added to salads, or combined with cooked dishes to create a balance between sweet and savory flavors. Thanks to being pre-cut and preserved in cans, this fruit is very convenient to use. Just open the can, and you immediately have an ingredient that can add flavor and nutrition to many dishes in the kitchen. 4. Coconut milk. Coconut milk is a familiar ingredient in many dishes, especially soups, curries, or rich stews. With just a small amount of coconut milk, a dish can become richer, more flavorful, and higher in energy. Thanks to its relatively high natural fat content, coconut milk is often used to add calories to meals when other energy sources are not available. In addition, the distinctive flavor of coconut also helps balance spicy or salty flavors in many different dishes. When canned and sealed, coconut milk can be stored for a long time while still retaining its flavor and quality. This makes it a very useful ingredient in the kitchen, because just one small can can turn simple ingredients into a more complete and flavorful meal. 3. Coconut water. Coconut water is often known as a natural drink that helps quench thirst. But beyond relieving thirst, coconut water also provides many important electrolytes, such as potassium and magnesium. These minerals play an important role in maintaining fluid balance and supporting the body's functions. When coconut water is bottled or canned, it can be stored longer than fresh coconut water while still retaining most of its natural minerals. This makes coconut water a convenient option when electrolytes are needed, without relying on industrial sports drinks. Besides drinking it directly, coconut water can also be used in some cooking recipes to add mild sweetness and a natural aroma to dishes. 2. Pasta. Pasta is one of the most common dry foods in many kitchens around the world. Made mainly from wheat, pasta can be stored for a long time if it is kept dry and stored properly. This makes pasta a very convenient ingredient for preparing meals when needed. With just a few simple ingredients such as tomatoes, vegetables, or a little meat, pasta can quickly become a complete meal. In addition, pasta comes in many different shapes and sizes, making it suitable for many types of sauces and cooking methods. Thanks to this flexibility, pasta can be used in many different dishes without requiring too many complex ingredients. That is why pasta is often kept in many kitchens as a simple and convenient option for everyday meals. 1. Flour. Flour is one of the most basic ingredients in many kitchens around the world. From this simple ingredient, people can create countless familiar foods. Bread, cakes, pizza, pancakes, and many other baked goods all begin with flour. Because of this, just having flour in the kitchen gives you the foundation to prepare many different meals. When combined with water, eggs, milk, or yeast, flour can turn into many foods with different textures and flavors. In addition, dry flour can be stored for quite a long time if it is kept sealed and protected from moisture. This makes flour a flexible and reliable ingredient in many households. With just one bag of flour, you can create many different foods to serve everyday meals. History shows that food rarely disappears completely from supermarkets. But during periods of global instability, the prices of many familiar items can rise much faster than many people expect. War, energy tensions, and disruptions in supply chains can all cause food costs to change very quickly. Therefore, many families begin to pay closer attention to foods that can be stored for a long time and are easy to use in many different meals. If you find this video helpful, please press like and subscribe to the channel. Among these 30 food items, how many do you already have in your kitchen? 5 items, 10 items, or almost all of them? Please let me know in the comments section.